Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Jacobs, Barkley, Cousins, Eckler, Burns. They all have two words for you. Legal tampering. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Kirk Cousins has done it again. He has hit the market and absolutely cashed in a 4-year, $180 million deal with the Atlanta Falcons, who now presumably become the favorite in the NFC South. Aaron Freeman joins me from Locked On Falcons. Maybe to disagree, maybe not. Aaron, what is the ceiling now of this team? New coach Raheem Morris gets in the building. They've got a top 10 pick, and now they have Kirk Cousins in the fold. What is the ceiling for this team this year?
I think it's absolutely making the playoffs. We'll see if they can get up into the mix with teams like the 49ers and Lions now that seemingly are atop the NFC playoff picture. I know you may cover a team that also wants to be in that mix in the Green Bay Packers. I'm sure our friends Gino and Louie are Locked On Eagles might think that their team is in the mix. But I think the Falcons are certainly, I think we can make a pretty easy case that they should be one of the top 7 teams in the NFC, and being maybe the 13th best team in the NFC might win the NFC South. That's just how bad that division has been the last couple of years. But I think when it comes to this new regime and Raheem Morris, they didn't want to make the same mistake that Arthur Smith made that ultimately kind of led to his firing, which is not having an answer at the quarterback position.
Yeah.
And that led to this offseason with the Falcons picking 8th and may not necessarily be in the mix for one of those top 3 quarterbacks, may not necessarily be in love with the 4th quarterback and JJ McCarthy out of Michigan, who might not even be there at pick number 8. It made all the sense in the world for the Falcons to basically be all in on Kirk Cousins, given he's going to be playing in a Sean McVay derivative scheme under new offensive coordinator Zach Robinson, who coached under Sean McVay the last couple of years. We've seen what Kirk has done these last couple of years playing in a similar scheme under Kevin O'Connell. We saw what he did playing for Sean McVay before he became the Sean McVay we know in LA back when he was the OC in Washington at the beginning of Kirk Cousins' career. So I think the Falcons
Morris on that staff as well.
Yep. I believe the Falcons believe that they can hit the ground running with Kirk Cousins, even coming off the Achilles injury, given the familiarity with the scheme, given some of the pieces that they have around them. As you know, Peter, a lot of people thought that this team, even with a middling quarterback like Desmond Ridder, could have made the playoffs last year, and they got within like 2 games of doing so. And, if you believe that Kirk Cousins is a significant upgrade over Desmond Ridder, and I happen to think that, then you feel pretty comfortable where the Falcons are right now heading into the 2024 season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Why do you think, if you can get Kirk Cousins in your building, I think a lot of teams benefit from that. Certainly he is an upgrade over Desmond Ridder and a significant one. But given the way that this team has tried to build it over the last few years, why not try and get a young quarterback in there? Drake London's still a young player. Kyle Pitts still a young player. Bijan Robinson's still a young player. It seems like this is a team that potentially is early on in their life cycle. Why not say, let's see if we can move up? Maybe the Patriots want to get off the number 3 pick. Maybe it is that they just don't like JJ McCarthy. But what do you think is the reasoning for just saying, let's go get Kirk rather than building this thing a little bit younger?
Well, I think the first thing is you don't really control whether or not you can move up. You're just basically hoping that the Patriots or the Washington does you a solid and basically says, we don't want one of these top 3 quarterbacks. And if you look basically at the Falcons' history, when they had an opportunity to swing on a quarterback back in 2021 with Justin Fields, whether you think they should have done that or not, you can certainly make a case that when you have these opportunities to take a quarterback, a talented quarterback at the top of the draft, you should not squander those opportunities. And I think those 3 teams at the top of the draft, we'll see what they wind up doing, but I'm not sitting here expecting those teams to squander their opportunities given the issues that they've had at the quarterback position the last couple of years with Chicago, Washington, and New England. So I don't think you're going to necessarily get into the mix there. And I think for the Falcons, you talk about the young talent they have, but they haven't really been able to maximize that young talent. Every year we talk about, oh, look at the talent that the Falcons have with Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, and yet they're sort of on the outside looking in. And I think the Falcons just kind of wanted to have a grown-up in the room, which is Kirk Cousins, that can sort of stabilize and solidify that group rather than having the sort of roller coaster ride that has been the last 2 seasons, especially with Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder.
Stay up to date all year on the Atlanta Falcons by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Falcons on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, the Giants lost their franchise running back to a rival, but have gotten better on defense in a big way. Before we get to that, we look at some of the other big moves on Monday in the NFL. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guaranteed, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime has plenty of last-minute tickets to your favorite team. They also make it easy to get in the gate with flash deals and zone deals. Gametime makes it easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. They've got views from all the seats in the venue. Gametime has the lowest price guaranteed. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Right now, new Gametime users get $20 off their first purchase with code LOCKEDON. Terms apply. Just download the Gametime app and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. And Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Austin Ekeler is headed to our nation's capital.
Austin Ekeler, former Los Angeles Chargers running back, is signing with the Washington Commanders. 2-year deal worth up to $11.43 million. And I mean, I think all of that honestly is music to the ears of Washington Commanders fans, because you got Brian Robinson, who's still expected, I think, to be the starter. I think you probably agree with me there. B-Rob should still be the feature back, the number one back on the field. And then Austin Ekeler basically comes in to be your, call it change of pace, call it receiving back, third down back, whatever you want to call it. And then Chris Rodriguez Jr., their rookie last year from Kentucky, kind of a little bit of a bowling ball up the middle, and then I think he's got a little bit of receiving ability in him too.
The Titans made a handful of moves, adding Tony Pollard, Lloyd Cushenberry, and Chidobe Awuzie.
Number one, my overall thought here is I give the Tennessee Titans an A- for their day one activity so far. Again, Tony Pollard, Lloyd Cushenberry, Chidobe Awuzie. I'm going to break down all of those signings individually, but overall, I give Ran Carthon an A- for his performance. He went out. The running backs went early. It was a bit of a surprise of free agency is how valued the running backs were, how many running backs went off the board in day one, but the Titans went and they strike early on that position and get Tony Pollard. They fill an absolute devastating need at center with Lloyd Cushenberry. Fantastic signing there. And then adding at cornerback where the Titans really needed help and needed 2 people ultimately at the end of the day to get a good one in Chidobe early in the process. That was huge. So overall, an A- for the Tennessee Titans.
The Niners added a pair of pass rushers.
And the 49ers look to get a little bit more stability at the edge rushing position. They've done a lot, y'all. They have done a lot by trying to throw resources at the edge rushing position. You saw what they did going to get Randy Gregory. Didn't quite work out, all right? Then they said, okay, we're going to go and get Chase Young. For sure it's going to work out with him. If there's anywhere he can get his career back on track, it's with the 49ers. Didn't quite work out. But they said, all right, let's stop playing with guys, and we're going to be active on day one of free agency and get a guy like Leonard Floyd.
The New York Giants made arguably the biggest addition of day one of the legal tampering period and one of the biggest losses of day one, at least in terms of the contracts handed out. Patricia Traina from Locked On Giants joins me now. And Patricia, let's start with a big addition. Brian Burns on a $150 million extension. They bring him in for just a second and 5th round pick. Remember, this is a player who the LA Rams just a season ago were interested in saying, hey, here's 2 firsts. The Carolina Panthers said no. Now they get this big piece. Patricia, for the Giants at this point in their life cycle, why was this the right move for them?
Well, because their pass rush has basically not been what it needs to be. I mean, look, You go back to the days of the 2007 championship team, the 2011 championship team, and what did those two teams have in common? They were at least three deep in terms of pass rush. So, the Giants, ever since they traded away Jason Pierre-Paul a few years back, their homegrown pass rush has dried up. So, they've tried to restart that with Azeez Ojulari, who's had some injury issues, Kayvon Thibodeau, who, last year had a pretty good season. They need to start winning and they need to start getting production from that unit. So they bring in a Brian Burns, who's 25 years old, who has the best pass rush win rate, not only on the Panthers, but as compared to the Giants last year, the Giant players. And it was a no-brainer if you think about it. So, you've got Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator, who likes to, rush with four guys and get home with four guys wherever possible. You're going to need a second pass rusher so that you're creating a pick your poison situation for the opponent.
And so for the Giants, they have this quarterback question, and this is something that has been dogging them. They signed the Daniel Jones extension. They lose Saquon Barkley. We find that out on Monday during the tampering period. But how does this set up the rest of their offseason?
Yeah, the Saquon Barkley situation, not a surprise. Joe Schoen pretty much drew a line in the sand as to how much he was willing to spend. The feeling was that Saquon was going to get a lot more than what he was willing to spend, and he, of course, did. The Eagles, I think, gave him the second highest APY behind Christian McCaffrey. Yep. So Joe Schoen, look, with a running back, the position has gone down in value over the years. And really, if you're like one player away from making a championship run, then you go and you spend on a guy like that. But the Giants are not one player away. So rather than spend on a fringe player, what Joe Schoen considered a fringe player, he put the money where it was needed. Offensive line, which has been an absolute disaster for the Giants. They added another running back in Devin Singletary because they're going to go to more of a committee approach. All the more reason why you don't sink a lot of money into a Saquon Barkley if you're going to a committee approach anyhow. But fix the offensive line, because if you don't fix that, then it doesn't matter who your running back is.
I mentioned one of the biggest losses, Xavier McKinney, 25-year-old safety. He was coming off his best season as a pro, top 5 in Pro Football Focus grade, the number 1 graded safety last year in coverage, according to Pro Football Focus. The Packers bring him in, $17 million a year, a 4-year, $68 million deal. Why? If the Giants are trying to improve this defense, why would you not keep someone like Xavier McKinney, and what does that loss mean for them?
Yeah, again, it comes down to position value. They decided that, with safety, they've got Dane Belton, who, we don't know if he's going to be as good as Xavier McKinney, but, he's a little bit more of a ball hawk. So maybe they figure, okay, we've got him on a rookie contract. And look, all you needed to know about the Xavier McKinney situation with the Giants was it had been rumored that they were going to give him the transition tag, which was about 13.8, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, right about there.
They did not want to have to pay him 13.8. They did not think he was kind of worth that. They figured that somebody was going to come along and offer him stupid money, and they weren't even going to be able to match it. So, why not give yourself a chance to potentially, get a comp pick if everything works out for you? And that's exactly what they did. So, look, I get it. The Giant fans, they talk about, you've got to retain your homegrown talent, and they didn't in this case. But McKinney, if you think about it, yes, he's had maybe 2 good years. He's had 2 years filled with injuries, hasn't been a Pro Bowler, hasn't been an All-Pro. I don't know if he's hit his ceiling. He probably hasn't yet, but given where he was, I guess they just felt it was time to move on from him.
Stay up to date all year on the New York Giants by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Giants on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Green Bay Packers were very busy on day one. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Of course, you can also build same-game parlays for even bigger payouts. They don't have to be live. Build them anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. You can also check out future bets for Major League Baseball, the favorite to win the World Series. Hold on to your hats. You're not going to believe this. It's the Dodgers. FanDuel has them plus 320. The Braves right behind them plus 450. Then the Astros 7-1. The Yankees 8-1. And the defending champion Rangers, the fifth best odds at 14-1. FanDuel, official partner of the NBA and official sportsbook of Locked On. The first day of free agency is usually a busy time around the NFL. It's usually an extremely quiet time around the halls of Lombardi. 1265 Lombardi Avenue does not buzz with the same sort of excitement of other front offices this time of year, except this year. It started with David Bakhtiari, a multi-time All-Pro and someone who is going to go down as one of the most beloved Packers of his era, one of the best Packers of his era. Longtime friend of Aaron Rodgers, maybe a harbinger of futures to come for him. He said goodbye on social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, thanking the fans, the organization, the staff, his family, for a run that unfortunately ended with an ACL injury in 2020 that he could just never quite overcome. That was a move that most of us expected to happen. It saved the Packers about $20 million on the salary cap. Okay, it is a tough loss, but it was a loss that Packer fans were prepared for. Then the signing of Josh Jacobs. Whoa, out of nowhere. What is this? Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, the best running back tandem since who? This is unbelievable. Let's see what the numbers are. No numbers early on, and maybe that's for a reason. It turns out that in the first year, Josh Jacobs is only going to cost a little over $5 million on the Packers cap. And so the 4 years, 48 is not the real number, but that's beside the point. Josh Jacobs is going to have to replace, we later found out, Aaron Jones, perhaps the most beloved current Packer and one of the most beloved Packers of the last 25 years, of the modern era. No one had a higher approval rating among cheeseheads than Aaron Jones. And then to lose him after the idea of Jacobs and Jones in the same backfield percolated for, what, an hour? 2 hours maybe? To go, wait a second, what? And then Packer fans, it was tears in the brats and the cheese curds. Until Xavier McKinney signs a 4-year, $68 million deal, and they are so back. Everyone is back in. This was the one player, and I cannot remember a player in recent memory that every single Packer fan wanted, that was so universally coveted by this fan base. And they go out and they get him. Played a lot of money. 4 years, 68, 17 million per. Now, we'll see what the real numbers are. It's usually a 2 years, and we'll see with the Packers. They don't guarantee money past the first year, and they use that signing bonus to spread it out. So we'll see. But we're talking about a guy who's going into his age 25 season, who was just Pro Football Focus's highest graded safety in coverage. In fact, since 2019, he is the highest graded safety in coverage when he plays free safety, a position the Packers do not have because Darnell Savage, also on Monday, agreed to terms, again, all legal tampering, with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So this is a team that is going to look very different. They have leaned into the youth movement. David Bakhtiari, the oldest Packer, he's gone. Aaron Jones, the second oldest Packer, now he's gone, at least on that offense. This team is being remade on the fly yet again. Kenny Clark is now the only player from the Ted Thompson era who remains on this roster, and frankly, that may only be the case for another year. This Packers team with Jordan Love, the Jordan Love Packers, they're going to look very, very different. And unfortunately for Green Bay, for as excited as they want to be about Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney, it comes at a cost. And it's a reminder of the cold nature of this business. But you know what? It's show business, not show friends. And that's true even in the NFL's smallest market. For more on the Green Bay Packers every day, subscribe to my other show, Locked on Packers, on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. And finally, the Lakers got by grammar. The Kobe Bryant statue, unveiled on February 8th to honor the LA Lakers legend outside Crypto.com arena, has not one, not two, not three, 4 typos on the box score on the base of the statue. Former Lakers guard Von Wafer's name is misspelled as Vom, V-O-M, Wafer. Former Toronto Raptors guard Jose Calderon's name is incorrectly spelled as Jose Calderson. The word decision is wrongly spelled twice in coach's decision, misspelled as in with 2 C's, no S. And even I tried to type that in my script, my computer caught the mistake. So why didn't the Lakers? Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. I can't get over the typos. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, who will be the next big free agent domino to fall in the NFL? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.